5 weeks ago, I told my husband that I was heading out for a mother-daughter weekend with Lana. In truth, though, I had a secret itinerary in mind. While I spent some precious hours with my daughter, I also met up with Steve, my lover. The dangerous thrill of evading my husband's notice, of hiding my true intentions, sent shivers down my spine. Every stolen kiss and every whispered promise with Steve smoldered in my memory, an intoxicating escape from the ordinary. Since that weekend, Steve and I have been in near constant touch, exchanging playful banter, heartfelt confessions, and moments that left us both breathless on the phone, aching for the next time we could actually be together. Meanwhile, Lana was absorbed in her college studies, leaving little room for long chats or visits. That meant our lives had been following separate rhythms since that fateful weekend, until plans for another escape were hatched. A long weekend getaway was set from Thursday to Sunday, and the mere thought of reuniting with Steve, of feeling his touch, filled me with anxious anticipation. The countdown had officially begun. Then on Monday, Lana called with worry lacing her voice. "Mom, my tuition for next semester is due next week. If it isn't paid, I might have to leave college." My heart plummeted. Why hadn't it been sorted already? Lana explained, frustration heavy in her tone, that she had only received the notice recently. She pleaded, "Can you talk to Dad?" I reassured her, "Of course, sweetheart, I'll handle it." That very night, when my husband finally returned home, I didn't waste a moment. "Why hasn't Lana's tuition been taken care of?" I demanded as he set his briefcase down. For a long heartbeat, he simply studied me before saying, "Because I'm not paying for a daughter who disrespects me, who stabs me in the back." I stared in disbelief, my mind racing with confusion. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He let out a heavy sigh, shaking his head as if I were too dim to understand. "I've learned some things," he said flatly, "and it's pretty clear she doesn't respect me. In fact, she might even hate me." I snapped. "That's ridiculous. Lana loves you. Where is this coming from?" But he only shrugged, insisting, "If you want to pay her tuition, do it from your own account." My anger, though smoldering, was tempered by the knowledge that pushing him further would be fruitless. That night, as I lay awake, my mind whirled with frustration and hurt. The very next day, I called Lana as soon as I could. "Your father said he won't cover your tuition because he thinks you don't respect him." I struggled to understand. "What?" she gasped, her voice trembling. "Mom, that's not true. I've always loved him." I could detect the hurt and sadness behind her words, and it broke my heart. "I believe you, sweetheart. Don't worry, I'll sort out the money, but you really should try talking to him." Lana hesitated. "I'll try, but I'm not sure he'll even listen." Neither of us had any clear answers. Determined to rectify the situation, I logged online to transfer Lana's tuition funds, only to freeze at the sight of an unusually low balance, a balance that should have been much higher. I clicked through statements, scanning every transaction, only to find our money missing, simply vanished. Panic soon gave way to a burning anger that I kept in check until my husband returned once more. As soon as he stepped through the door, I unleashed, "Where's all our money? How am I supposed to pay for Lana's tuition?" He calmly set his keys on the table and replied, "I withdrew my money. The funds left in our joint accounts are only enough for the house payments and your car." I repeated in disbelief, "Your money?" He continued, "Not anymore. If there isn't enough, then get a job." My voice trembled with shock. "This is all for Lana, isn't it? You're punishing her for something she didn't even do." He tilted his head, feigning contemplation. "For her school, maybe one of your lovers can pitch in." His tone grew icy. "Maybe you can charge them for your escapades. Perhaps your steady lover will cover it." I sank onto a chair, my heart pounding. "What do you mean?" I stammered. "I don't have any lovers," I insisted weakly, trying to sound convincing. But his bitter laugh pierced the air. "Oh, come on now. I know about your steady lover. I know about your college fling with Steve, and I'm aware of all the college boys you've been with, especially with our ungrateful daughter's support. I also know you and Lana once shared her boyfriend." The sight of my husband's harsh glare made my blood run cold. My throat constricted and tears began to spill. My marriage was falling apart, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Between sobs, I tried to defend myself. "It was just sex," I whispered. "Just sex?" he scoffed. "Then tell me, When was the last time you had sex with me? When did we truly make love? Silence followed as my mind failed to conjure an answer. Not waiting for me to speak, he continued. I'll tell you, the last time you had sex with me was a week after your first visit to Lana's college, and it was pathetic. You just lay there with your eyes closed while I did all the work. You even finished, and on your third climax, you cried out Steve's name. I gasped, my breath catching. That's when I realized our marriage was in serious trouble, he said, his voice softening momentarily before hardening again. And as for making love, when was that even? Shame tore through me, and I saw that I had been so consumed with my own desires that I had neglected him, neglected us. Looking into his eyes, I saw the pain and betrayal etched in every line, and I knew I had been a terrible wife. He continued, not that I'm interested in having sex with you now. Who knows what diseases you've picked up from all your affairs? I flinched and he pressed on bitterly. And our daughter, she's been encouraging you to destroy our marriage. She hasn't spoken to me since she moved into her dorm last week. She even ignored my texts. His eyes burned with finality. Now you know why I won't pay her tuition. She needs to get a job, maybe turn her promiscuity into cash. Perhaps together you can earn enough to put her through college. I sat there reduced to tears and unable to respond, the crushing weight of guilt too heavy to bear. He exhaled sharply. I'm going to sleep, he muttered. In the following days, I moved most of my belongings into our guest room, a change my husband barely acknowledged. He declared he'd be sleeping there from now on, no need to pretend otherwise. As I watched him retreat, a crushing emptiness enveloped me. The echoing silence of our house pressed in, and before long I reached for my phone and called Lana, desperate for someone to listen. The moment she answered, sobs overtook me. Lana, your father knows, I managed to choke out. He knows about Steve, about all the affairs. That's why he won't pay your tuition. Panic laced her voice. Oh, Mom, how does he know? Do you have a lover at home too? What about Steve? What happens now? Who pays for college? I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. We both heard him, loud and clear, and I'm not sure our marriage will survive. He said awful things about us both, and honestly, I don't even blame him. Despite my attempts to calm down, the tears continued to flow. I can't even bring myself to say where he hid our money. I must let him cool down. I'm trying to save our marriage, though I wouldn't bet my life on it. Lana hesitated. Should I call him? I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. Not now. He said you've been ignoring him ever since you moved into the dorm. Please, Lana, try to be calm, and tell Steve not to call. I can't see him or any of the other guys anymore. And your boyfriend, James, he should stay away. A heavy silence settled as we ended our conversation. My life was unraveling. I had once had it all, a loving husband who provided in every way, and we lived in comfortable circumstances. I never needed to work after you were born, Lana, and while we weren't wealthy, we were secure. In the beginning, I argued with your father sometimes, and yes, we had a vibrant sex life. But as the years went by, everything changed. My husband's work commitments grew, and maybe that's why I fell into the arms of my longtime lover, Nathan. With my high libido, I convinced myself I could indulge in an affair without hurting my husband. I believed that extra excitement would improve our lives. How foolish that seems now. When Lana went off to college, I visited her campus for 2 weekends. On my first visit, I met Steve at a fraternity party. He was young, charming, and full of energy. That night, I lay with him, and to my shock, Lana didn't judge me. If anything, she kind of encouraged it. Over the following 4 weeks, phone calls with Steve turned into passionate, secret rendezvous. Simultaneously, I continued to meet Nathan as usual, never mentioning Steve or the wild weekend. It was my hidden secret. I failed to realize that as I neglected my husband, things were spiraling out of control. On my second visit to Lana's college, Steve appeared again, and this time, it wasn't just him. That weekend, I found myself with him and about a dozen of his fraternity brothers, indulging in reckless, unapologetic intimacy. We acted without thinking, and while neither Lana nor I felt immediate guilt, selfishness reigned over us. Then 5 weeks after that second whirlwind weekend, my life shattered completely. My husband stopped paying for Lana's college. Initially, I couldn't fathom why, but when he confronted me, he revealed that he knew about Nathan, about Steve, about every sordid detail. The days that followed turned into a blurred haze of confusion and despair. I called Lana repeatedly, and together we cried over the phone as I admitted, I never meant to hurt him. Lana responded, her voice trembling, I'm coming home this weekend. We need to talk to him. Maybe there's a way to fix things with Dad. I wasn't sure if anything could be salvaged, though my hope still clung on for her sake. Steve phoned once after the confrontation, but without thinking, I disconnected. Even Nathan, my usual twice-a-week meeting, sent messages asking to come over, but I only replied briefly, I have things to sort out. I'll call you later. And I didn't. My husband, meanwhile, was nowhere to be found in the evenings. At first I feared he was in the arms of another woman, though deep down I knew that wasn't true. Then I noticed sports clothes in the laundry hamper, and it dawned on me. He was working out. I remembered his gym bag and realized that while I was lost in my affairs, he had been channeling his energy into physical transformation. The thought consumed me. On Friday, when Lana returned home in the afternoon, we sat together in the quiet living room for hours. I even confessed to her about Nathan, the one secret I'd kept hidden. She listened without judgment, though worry shadowed her every word. That same evening, my husband came home late. The moment he stepped in, Lana rushed to him. I'm so sorry, Dad, she cried, clutching him tightly. He paused, then patted her back with a calm, yet distant tone. We'll talk in the morning, he said before retreating to the guest room. I saw that his indifference wounded our daughter deeply, but she insisted she understood. The very next morning, we gathered at the dining table. My husband sat silently across from us, his gaze heavy with unspoken pain. After a long pause, he finally broke the silence. Who wants to start talking? What do you both have to say about this mess? Lana and I had spoken the previous night, and she volunteered to start. Dad, first I want to apologize, she began steadily. We hurt you, both Mom and I, but please know that our love for you hasn't ever wavered. He grumbled lowly, skeptical, but remained silent as Lana pressed on. Mom wasn't just my mother. She was my best friend. I know every detail of your marriage. And yes, even about your sex life. At that, my husband's eyes narrowed in shock and anger. My eyes dropped as shame gripped me. I recalled everything I had told Lana over the years, nothing that truly captured our reality. Lana's voice softened. Mom mentioned that, over time, your intimacy suffered, that you started coming home exhausted after long hours at work. That is why you turned to other means, using toys, exploring, even though you never pressured him. My husband let out a frustrated breath, but said nothing further. Then came the bombshell. I also know that you had an affair with Nathan a few years back. Lana's tone was a mix of hurt and disappointment as she revealed, she told me just last week. My heart pounded and my husband's stance stiffened as his fury simmered beneath his calm surface. Lana continued, I heard that you approved of her meeting Steve again on her second visit to college, thinking it would satisfy her needs without further harm. Her confession punctuated the heavy silence and left me red-faced with shame. As my husband absorbed every word, the room felt unbearably heavy. I choked out a weak apology as tears rolled down my cheeks, tears for a love that was slowly dying. Then, with a cold and measured tone, my husband posed, Do you have any explanation at all? I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing emerged. Instead, he recounted, Your infidelity, your long-term affair, while I poured my heart into working long hours for this family. You never wished to hurt me, yet you chose a different path, and not just with one man. You even involved Luna, our daughter's boyfriend, in this twisted affair. His voice turned icily detached. With every word, my soul shattered a little more. I could feel my body trembling as I conceded silently that I had indeed destroyed everything. After a long moment, he declared, Let me summarize. My wife had an extramarital affair because I spent long hours at work trying to support this household. You chose secrecy over honesty. Instead of seeking real intimacy with me, you indulged in fleeting pleasures, sleeping with multiple men, including college frat boys, and even shared a boyfriend with our daughter. Each sentence hit like a blow, the weight of his accusations nearly knocking me off my feet. I exhaled shakily, and finally tears streamed freely. Deep down, I knew my tears were not enough to mend the damage. Shifting his focus, my husband then turned to Lana. "Let's get this straight," he said. "Your mother had a good job before you were born, and the pregnancy was planned. I always wanted children. That's why we moved into a bigger house, despite my arguments about it being too large." His words dredged up memories of a simpler time, when we'd believed in our future together. "Your mother promised she'd eventually return to work once you were in school, so she'd share in household expenses." I sat there, swallowed by remorse and memories of happier times. "But as time passed, you spent too much on frivolities, bi-weekly salon visits, expensive shoes, purses, and designer dresses, not to mention replacing the car every few years. And let's not forget spending my money on your lover." My daughter's eyes widened in shock as I felt a numb mix of guilt and humiliation. He continued bitterly, "I even bought a gift certificate for Christmas, while your lover got an expensive engraved watch. I tried discussing money matters repeatedly, but nothing changed. Eventually, I had to work even longer hours to cover our expenses, and you, dear daughter, got the lion's share of our income." Lana's silence said more than words. He recalled a particular argument, comparing a $150 tennis racket of his to a $1,400 designer bag that you, my wife, had splurged on. I felt my face burn with shame as he added a final jab about the expensive lingerie you'd bought. "Lingerie I had once admired on you, but maybe that was reserved for your lovers," he noted with a cruel smirk. It all hit me like a tidal wave. I had never truly seen our finances, never understood how recklessly I'd spent our money to fill an inner void. All I had was the thrill in the moment, an illusion of desire. "Money doesn't grow on trees," he reminded us, his tone stern. "I worked long hours to support both of you. I like my job, but working over 10 hours a day meant I didn't have energy even for you at home." He paused, noticing the blush on Lana's cheeks as our conversation veered into details of our past intimacy. "Oh, come on, sweetheart," he said gently. "If you've discussed Mom's past, then you've heard everything. The wild sex, the times before you were born." His words, once full of longing, now cut through the silence like a knife. As tension mounted, my heart pounded, and I mustered all the courage I had left. "Please, let me speak first," I blurted out. Both my husband and Lana looked at me in surprise, but gave me the floor. "My dear husband," I began, voice trembling, "I am terribly sorry for the pain I've caused you. I lost my way without realizing what I was doing, and I never intended to hurt you. Everything that's happened is my fault." My voice cracked as I pleaded for forgiveness. "Even if you never forgive me, please try to find it in your heart for our daughter. She needs you, more than she needs me right now." I paused to gulp down the sob that threatened to break me entirely, my eyes brimming with tears. My husband's face remained impassive as he finally spoke. "I appreciate your apology, but I've already spoken with a divorce lawyer." His words confirmed what I had long feared. Our marriage was broken beyond repair. I listened in numb disbelief as he outlined the harsh reality. "The law isn't exactly on my side here. I've decided it's cheaper to keep you around financially. I've canceled your credit cards. You'll only have limited funds for groceries and personal use. And from now on, I'm not paying for Lana's college or her other expenses. If she wants to study, she'll have to work for it." He sneered. "And if you disagree, well, you can file for divorce yourself." My mind raced and my stomach churned as he continued. "But that's not even the worst part. Your infidelity, your betrayal, cuts the deepest. I don't want any physical contact from you. I can't imagine touching someone who hurt me so profoundly. And don't think for a minute that I'll ignore your health either. I expect you to get a full checkup because I refuse to be held accountable for your reckless behavior that might lead to disease." The shock and humiliation of his final words made me feel as if I were defiled both in body and soul. There was a brief moment when he imposed one last ultimatum. "If you want to stay in this marriage, you must remain faithful. No more secrets." Meanwhile, Nathan, your longtime lover, is not the only one. He has others, and his antics have ruined more than one marriage. His voice hardened as he wrapped up his dictates. "These are the new rules. If you disagree, then you'll need to file for divorce on your own." With that, he stood abruptly, leaving us in a suffocating silence. Lana and I sat there, each lost in the wreckage of our lives, my heart heavy and my soul aching. I won't pretend I wasn't desperate for a lifeline. Over the next few days, while I attempted to piece together any semblance of hope, Lana returned to college. One Monday night, however, she called with startling news. Over the weekend, Steve's fraternity had thrown a party that ended in tragedy. A heavily intoxicated girl was assaulted by multiple men. The incident triggered not only a police investigation revealing a major drug bust at the fraternity, complete with incriminating videos on the members' devices, but also uncovered a pile of drugs in Steve's own room. When I looked at my husband, I noticed a faint smirk, as if he already knew, or even had a hand in it. When I asked him directly, he simply said, "I would never orchestrate such a crime. That was simply an unfortunate twist of fate." His voice had a detached finality as he added that the fraternity was shut down, its members facing severe consequences that jeopardized their futures. Then came another bombshell. On Thursday, I received a call from investigators who had found compromising sex tapes on Nathan's office computer, footage that included encounters with several married women. Though none of these tapes directly involved me, I was questioned because of my known association with him. My husband, oddly supportive during the investigation, helped clear my name. But weeks later, Nathan called from detention, demanding to know if my husband had planted evidence since all of his videos had mysteriously vanished. An ominous letter had warned him, "Don't mess with married women." I didn't ask any questions, for I already understood the grim answer. My husband had a friend who was a cybersecurity expert, and I prayed he hadn't discovered even more than I already knew. As I watched my past lovers come under legal scrutiny, dread filled me for what might follow. Although I remain legally married, it's a name that now feels entirely empty. I underwent a full medical exam, a clean bill of health, they said, except for a hormonal imbalance that likely started after my pregnancy, which I've since been treating. Psychologically, I was diagnosed with a mild shopping addiction, a factor combined with my high libido and the lack of intimacy at home that may have spurred my infidelities. I never used these diagnoses as an excuse. I owned up to every wrongdoing. Soon after, I managed to secure a job at a modest startup in my field, where my boss, herself scarred by past betrayals, became a firm yet understanding figure in my life. The pay isn't much, but it's fulfilling, and my husband even lets me keep a portion of my hard-earned money. Despite that, the bond between my husband and Lana is shattered. Attempts to repair their communication died abruptly. He always excused himself from conversations about her. I had no choice but to let the subject rest. While I remain in these tangled circumstances, my husband continues to keep his distance. Even if we accidentally brush against each other, he dismisses it with a cold shrug, as though I were contaminated. That pain is unbearable, yet if I have to live under this broken marriage, I must. One friend mentioned that my husband has transformed into quite the stud, cutting back on work, embarking on an intense fitness program, and getting into optimal shape. Over the summer, when our daughter's college friends visited, they flirted blatantly with him, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Was I angry? Yes. Did he sleep with any of them? I don't know, and I honestly don't want to. After all, he had already granted himself a hall pass. For an entire year, I clung to a slim hope, trying apologies and grand gestures, giving him space, trying desperately to become someone he could once again love. But he never allowed me back in. Polite, distant, and forever cold, the man who once cherished me had locked me out completely, leaving me to stand in the ruins of what I had so recklessly destroyed. I reached a point where pretending was no longer an option. I had to confront the unvarnished truth. He wasn't going to forgive me, not now, perhaps not ever. So with a heavy heart, I filed for divorce. Handing him the papers was the hardest moment of my life. I didn't fight it. I simply said, "I just want you to be happy." I didn't demand alimony, nor did I look for a settlement or a second chance. I had taken far too much already. Now I reside in a small flat near my office, a quiet, almost suffocating place where I sometimes see my daughter. When we speak, there's an invisible line between us that wasn't there before. And on days when I spot my husband in the grocery store, moving purposefully through the aisles, I stand at a distance, watching him. For a few excruciating seconds, it feels like I'm still part of his world, even if he never notices. Life is, simply put, a disgraceful mess, and I created it. I invite you, dear listener, to share your own thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing to our channel, as well as liking and sharing this video so that we can continue to explore these raw, human experiences together. Then came the final conversation. One quiet Sunday as Lana returned to college, my husband and I sat at the table once again. My heart pounded in my chest when he walked in, and before any of us could speak, I blurted out, "Please let me speak now before I lose my courage." His eyes widened, but he didn't object. I took trembling hands in mine and pleaded, "My dear husband, I am so sorry for all the pain I've caused. I honestly don't know when I lost my way. Please believe that I have always loved you. None of this was ever your fault. Every betrayal, every lie is mine alone." He said nothing for a long moment, though the tension in his jaw was palpable. I forced through my admission. "I intend to get professional help to understand why I acted this way. I know you're angry with Lana right now, but remember, she too was caught in the web of my selfishness. I beg you, try to forgive her, even if you can't forgive me." My voice broke as I whispered, "I know I have no right to ask for anything, but if you could give me even the smallest chance, I will do whatever it takes to make things right." I could barely breathe after those final words, and as soon as I finished, I turned and fled up to my bedroom. I hadn't meant to say that if you ever move on without me, please forgive me, for I only want your happiness, even if it's without me. After 15 long minutes of trying to calm my shattered nerves, I crept back downstairs. My husband and Lana were still seated there, silently processing everything that had been said. I hesitated before whispering, "I'm sorry." My husband straightened up slowly and said, "I appreciate your confession. I didn't expect things to become so serious. I won't mince words. I've already talked to a divorce lawyer." His tone was matter-of-fact, and it crushed me even more to hear it spoken aloud. "The divorce laws in this state aren't in my favor," he continued. "After weighing every possibility with my attorney, I've come to the conclusion, it's cheaper to keep you here." I blinked in disbelief, a fragile glimmer of hope stirring deep within me. A hope that maybe, just maybe, our marriage could be salvaged. But I knew deep down that nothing would ever be exactly as it once was. Major changes were inevitable. "First," he declared, "I've canceled all your credit cards. From now on, you'll only have access to a small weekly allowance for your groceries and personal expenses." His eyes hardened as he added, "I'm not paying for Lana's college or any of her expenses. If she wants to study, she'll have to earn it. And if you call her a victim, I call that bullshit. Sharing her boyfriend with you makes her one of the most depraved individuals I've ever met. Legally disowning her might cost me money, but for me, she's as good as dead." I swallowed hard at his callousness. Then his tone turned icy. "But the most important thing, your infidelity. You hurt me with your betrayal. Even though you claim you never lost respect for me, I do feel deeply insulted. I don't want any physical affection from you in the foreseeable future. The thought of touching you repulses me." His final words cut sharper than any before. "I expect you to get a clean bill of health. We can't risk any diseases from your reckless escapades. And know this, while I won't deny you a hall pass, if I find someone who is truly worthwhile, I won't hesitate to be with them. I won't flaunt it, but you'll never have the right to question or stop me." A flood of emotions, anger, pain, humiliation, washed over me as I absorbed his ultimatum. In that moment, I finally understood the depth of my betrayal. The man who had once loved me with every fiber of his being now saw only deceit and selfishness in my every act. I realized with a heavy heart that I had allowed other men to use me in the only way my broken heart knew how. I felt so dirty inside, a stain on my soul that no amount of remorse could ever erase. I knew I had to cleanse myself from the inside out. "And one more thing," he added coldly, "I expect you to get a clean bill of health, because I won't be held liable if any of your diseases come back to haunt me." His words left me mortified. In all my selfish lust, I hadn't considered not only my own health, but the well-being of those around me. His voice then dropped even further. "I won't ever have sex with you again, but I won't abstain entirely either. We haven't been intimate in years. And now that you've had adventures with your lover, I suppose I have my own hall pass. But know this, if you can't keep your fidelity in check, then you leave me no choice. If you can't accept these new rules, you'll have to file for divorce yourself." With that final decree, he rose from the table, leaving an oppressive stillness in his wake. As Lana and I sat there, trying to comprehend the wreckage of our lives, a part of me couldn't help but wonder if there was any hope left at all. The idea of my husband being with someone else, of another's touch replacing what we once shared, filled me with a bittersweet sorrow. I could choose to walk away and seize the financial settlement, but at what price? I still loved him, even if I had to fight an uphill battle to win him back. And so the rest of that painful Sunday passed in heavy, suffocating silence. On Monday night, Lana called again, this time with an odd note of excitement in her voice. She recounted that over the weekend, Steve's fraternity had been embroiled in scandal. A heavily intoxicated girl had been assaulted, and soon after, a tip led the police to a major drug operation within the fraternity. A raid uncovered a trove of illicit substances, along with damning videos stored on members' devices, including incriminating evidence from Steve's own room. When I looked at my husband, a wry smirk crossed his face, as if he already knew about this twist. When I questioned him, his nonchalant reply was, "I would never orchestrate the assault on an innocent girl. That was just an unfortunate side story. The fraternity's done, and its members now face consequences that could ruin their futures." Before we close, I want to thank you for staying with our story through its ups and downs. If you appreciate these deeply human dramas, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting like or commenting with your thoughts. Every interaction helps us share more stories just like this. In the end, my life became a series of shattered dreams and relentless self-reflection. I now live in a modest flat, occasionally in touch with Lana, though an invisible rift has grown between us. I still catch glimpses of my ex-husband in the supermarket, always efficient and distant, leaving me to wonder if a piece of our old life still lingers in those fleeting moments. I have no idea what the future holds. I once believed in a perfect marriage, a family built on love and trust. Now I only have a legacy of mistakes, a legacy that I must live with. This story is a raw testament to the messiness of life, to the consequences of choices made in the heat of passion and neglect. I share it with you, our loyal listeners, hoping that in retelling my pain, you might find a lesson, a catharsis, or just a moment of connection. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the complexities of human relationships. Thank you for listening, and remember, sharing your story, even if it's painful, can sometimes be the first step toward healing.